In this video, we're going to take a look at the damping property of the particle animator. And what damping does is it allows you to control how much of your particle's motion is preserved from one frame to the next. It's a 0 to 1 value, with 0 representing no motion being preserved and 1 representing 100% of the motion being preserved. And if you leave it set to 1 and you hit play, basically there's no resistive motion on these particles whatsoever. They're always going to be moving forward. And I can just leave it right here in non-play mode, and we can watch the demo. Now, if I was to take my damping and set it to 0.5, if you take a look at the behavior, what's happening is these particles are slowing down over time. That's because on each frame, we're removing a percentage of their overall velocity until they eventually reach 0. If we set it down even lower, say to 0.2, that means on each frame we're only saving 20% of the total velocity, and they end up coming to a complete stop, or very close to a complete stop, before they finally die. Now on the flip side of this, you can set this to a value greater than 1 or greater than 100%, so you could say like 1.5. And now you're adding more energy into the particles. This can be useful for certain tricks and effects, but it's not particularly realistic. Generally, physical bodies will tend to have some sort of friction applied to them, and that's really what damping is helping you to simulate. It can also help kind of calm down a simulation that's maybe going a little bit haywire. If you're trying to create an explosion or a puff of particles that are going in every direction, then adding a little damping can bring things back down.
Right. It's kind of like when we were talking about the force, random force being applied in world direction only, and saying that there wasn't really a way to apply a force in a local direction to speed things up. This is a way that you can use to kind of cheat that, and because it is applied locally.
That's right. And you can, like I said, you can see here that I've got 1.5, so I'm actually adding 50% more energy, and I can crank this up to something like 2, and we're starting to add, let me frame up on that real quick. There we go. Starting to add more energy into the system, and you can see the particles starting to accelerate, which is pretty cool. But generally, you're going to be setting this to some value between 0 and 1. As a matter of fact, if I set it to 0, the particles are not retaining any of their motion from one frame to the next, and so they're just not moving at all. And you can see we can set this to very low values, and then we just get a tiny little bit of motion. So overall, a very simple property, but a very important one if you're playing with a lot of high velocity particles, or you're starting to see some behavior that you're having a hard time controlling. That will wrap things up for this video. Thanks for watching.